Hi, today I'd like to talk about board games. My name is John Laprise, and this is for my data class, Data 620, with Dr. Carolyn Bream. So, I've been a long-time player of board games, and there's a really rich and vibrant community around board games online with the website Boardgame Geek. Board gamers are statisticians at heart, and they collect a lot of data. And thanks to GitHub, I have access to a fairly large data set from their website. So I'd like to talk about the growing popularity of board games and some of the characteristics of board games that we can see in this run up in this golden age of board gaming that we're currently in. So let's begin here. So this sort of shows the rise of board gaming over the past 20, 30 years. So you can see in the early 1990s that we had, this is a description of the number of board games, new board games by year that are being released. And you can see that growing consistently over time. And after 2015, we have projections. One of the other things you see in this display with the orange are the rise in what are called board game expansions, which are addition. It's a game that doesn't play on its own, but you add it to another game, which adds a level of complexity to it. And so it might make a board game that you've sort of played for a long time more interesting by adding new rules. Maybe sometimes it adds the possibility for maybe a 4-player game to become a 5-player game, so you can add more people. So we see this rise going up, and from all news accounts, this rise is continuing as it's trended out here from in the last 5 years. So on this page, we look at the complexity of board games, and what we see is that board game complexity has not changed over time very much. The average complexity is staying fairly steady at around 1, and as you might imagine or might expect, the board game expansions, their complexity is a little bit higher, more around a 2, which makes sense given that they're supposed to be augmenting a given game and adding more to it. Here we also see that board games are generally being met more favorably over time. So we see a slow rise in favorability and approval. So this is the rankings on Boardgame Geek of individual board games. And we see that the median for more median approval over time, the median rating just on a 10-point scale keeps on rising. And that's also true for the expansions as well at a slower pace. So board games continue to come out and continue to come out in greater number, but we aren't seeing a decline in quality, or rather the games that are coming out are being ranked very favorably, even with new players. Finally, this is an interesting slide because this talks a little bit about how users, on the bottom we have the total number of owners of games, and each point represents an individual game, and how many users on the y-axis actually rated the game. And what we see here is that there's a very strong correlation between owning a game and rating a game. And I think this goes to, well, this isn't a causation by any stretch, but what it says is that the community that is interested in games is very vocal, and this community on Boardgame Geek is very vibrant. And whether it is the case that people who are buying more games and then you end up with more ratings because of that, or people are playing games and then rating them, and that encourages people to buy games at a particular rate. In either case, we see a strong growing community of people playing and buying games. So, and finally, I have a link here with my data source. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.